Welcome to Learning Aloud, a podcast from the Organizational Dynamics community at the University of Pennsylvania, produced to inspire purposeful leadership practice and transform organizational experience. I am your host, Stephen G. Hart. My guest today is Cecil Johnson, an organizational dynamics alum and now global talent development leader at Johnson & Johnson. Cecil is responsible for the strategy for accelerating the trajectory of high-potential talent at Johnson & Johnson globally across the enterprise. He terms this talent pool as the critical middle. Cecil's dropped by our studio today to talk about his work and how his experience in Penn's Organizational Dynamics program provided him with the opportunity to pursue his passion in learning, development, and leadership. Cecil, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks, Steve. Great to be here.
It's good to have you. I really enjoyed reading your LinkedIn profile, and you write in your profile that in your current role at J&J, you architect and build innovative approaches to leadership and organizational development in large, changing environments. You create sustainable development brands that advance culture, capability, and deliver business impact. And partnering with the internal and external ecosystem globally, you ensure practical, adaptable, and forward-focused application of new leadership skills. Now, this sounds to me like a dream job. So what does doing this kind of work mean to you, and how did you get started in the learning and development field?
It's funny, Steve, as you were reading, that really does sound good.
It does.
That does sound
exciting.
exciting.
Let's get going. Let's do it.
Well, first, I really enjoy what I do. And meeting talent globally in different cultures and in different contexts. And that is what is, I think, the experience that I get from this and the excitement that I get from it. And a part of it is that at Johnson & Johnson, I'm able to do things that leverage my strengths. And I may mention that again. And there's also a difference between the job that I do or the job that anyone does and what someone does in it. And I think that is an important piece, is that you can walk into any position or any job, but what you make of it. And for me, it really is about how do I help talent realize all that they can be, or at the very least recognize it. And how do I really help them have those moments where they say, oh, wait a minute, I was thinking this way and now I'm thinking a different way. And that's what excites me about it. And what I found is that it doesn't matter whether you're in Europe, whether you're in Asia, whether you're in the US, talent at this core are humans. And they think very similarly. Even though their context may change with regards to culture, maybe their upbringing may be different, but fundamentally, they all want to do their best, they all want to be successful, and they all want to contribute.
So how has J&J embraced your approach to culture, development, and leadership, and what impact has your work had on the culture there?
Sure. One of the things that I'm proud about in working for Johnson & Johnson is that it's created an environment for me to use my strengths. I think any environment that you're in, if you can be with a company that enables you to use your strengths, and I think that's critical, and that will help you fulfill whatever goals you have, but also contribute to the organization. What Johnson & Johnson has done is really given me the space and the environment to use my strengths. I think any organization that does that, you're going to realize some type of success, but also some type of fulfillment. And for me, I've had the pleasure to really use strategy, business focus, but also innovation and creativity. One of the things I did earlier on in my career was create a experience called the Leadership Theater. So I co-created that with an external partner, and that was a opportunity for talent in the development space to actually come and interview for a job at Johnson & Johnson. And when you talk about culture and doing things differently, that makes them feel different, but also lets them know that Johnson & Johnson is a space where new things will be tried, but also relevant things. What's also exciting is that now I'm able to, and what I'm doing now, which is different, is partnering our internal talent with external startups. One of the goals that we have is to really help push that innovation muscle and capability we have in our top talent, actually all of our talent, but especially our top talent. And what's great about that is that they are able to now to see the world, but more importantly, touch the future. And that's one key aspect of what I do that I think is important, that I think differentiates what we do at Johnson & Johnson. And I think to some degree differentiates what I do is that I don't want our talent to just see the future. I actually want them to touch it, interact with it. And if I can do that in a different way, that's going to strengthen their experiences, but also strengthen what Johnson & Johnson does. And Johnson & Johnson, as you mentioned, has a culture that allows me to do that. It helps me nudge the culture along. It's a big company, Steve, as you know, a lot of big companies. You can't just push a company, but you can have a company that enables you to nudge it just a little bit further than it otherwise would have been.
Yeah. So in your LinkedIn profile, you talked about this idea of this critical middle.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
Absolutely. The critical middle, and it doesn't matter necessarily the titles of the positions because they change within organizations, but it's that group of talent and employees that's caught right there between strategy and implementation. They're the ones that see the vision, kind of understand the vision, and now the organization relies on them to translate that to the troops, in a sense, who are actually going to make it happen on the ground. And often they bear a lot of weight in that. It's pretty heavy in that space as far as what they have to do. And sometimes the vision may be clear at a high level, but now at a lower level, they're trying to figure out how do I connect those dots. That's the critical middle. Those groups of employees who are really bearing that burden, but also responsibility and privilege to really translate that. And what happens is that it's important that that group is empowered, that they are made to feel vital, and that they are given the space to make important things happen. So by putting that term critical on it, it lets internal and external players know that they are essential to success in the business today and tomorrow.
Yeah. So what's been the response?
Response has been great. It's funny. It's a term that is slowly, and some of my colleagues are picking it up. I mentioned it when I post on LinkedIn, the critical middle. Yeah. But I would love everyone to embrace that. There's been things written about, of course, that middle management group.
Right.
But I think using the word critical, I think gives us an opportunity to really hone in on what they need, not just what they do.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you've had really great success with that. And you know, when I was talking to you, you attributed a lot of your success to what had gone on here at Penn, your time at Penn. So let's switch hats just a little bit, and let's look at the work you did while you were on the OD program at Penn. It seems clearly to have steered you towards making this meaningful career in learning and development. Let's tell me a little bit more about how your experience on the program has influenced your career direction.
Sure. Well, one of the things that the program did help me do is transition from leadership development. Just to give you a little bit of career, I started as a salesperson and actually being in front of the customer, and then moved to sales management, then training for sales, and then I moved to leadership development. Now, I did some learning strategy, of course, and leadership development, but then moved to leadership development. And what the program helped me do is make that transition from leadership development, which is in that L&D space, to more of a talent management space, where you do use that aspect of L&D. And what the program helped me do is understand is that there's so many things happening in the organization that so many people are not paying attention to. And by going through this program, what was so, I would say, special about it is that it was practical, and that I could apply everything that I learned in class the next day. And I would see things differently. Some things scared me, some things excited me. But when you open yourself up to understand what happens with regards to organizational politics, when you understand what happens when it comes to culture and culture change, when you look at diagnosing the organization, what happens in groups, you can't help but be different. But you also can't help but show up differently in the workplace. And by going to Penn, it gave me that confidence, but also it gave me that academic rigor and credibility and foundation to walk in the organization, into my organization, and see things differently. And what that empowered me to do was speak up more. And having conversations with people in a different way, where they said, well, wait a minute, Cecil's not an HR person, but he sounds like someone that understands the dynamics that are going on in the organization. And ultimately, that was the transition I wanted to make, was moving from that commercial space into that human resources or that human capital space. And to really make things happen differently as much as I could, coming from that base of being in the business.
Yeah, it sounds like you embraced the title of our podcast here, Learning Aloud.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, you told me recently that your Capstone project at Penn also helped to bring some focus to your professional work. So, what was your capstone about, and how did writing it help you in your work? And what are you applying today in your leadership?
Sure, absolutely. One of the things, the first class that I had here at Penn was with Dr. Janet Greco. And one of the things that she says, I would say almost every class, is your capstone should be something that just doesn't qualify you to complete the program, but should be something that you can take with you beyond the program and into your life.
Great insight.
And it really was. And she kept saying that, and I finally got it. Of course, at first you're like, I just want to get a
Took a
grade,
while.
right? But my capstone is titled, and I'll give the academic title because we're at Penn.
Okay.
It's The Organization as a Romantic Partner, an initial exploration of the parallels of employee-organization relationships to romantic interpersonal relationships.
Wow.
Deep breath. And basically what it is, Steve.
Sounds like a love story.
Yeah, it is. And actually, it's funny that you say that because it essentially is about falling in love with your company. I examine that employees feel the heartbreak and happiness with their companies many times in the same way they do as if they were in a relationship with another person. What the program helped me do was recognize one, metaphor. So being able to coin this new metaphor that hadn't been coined before or should have been developed before, and then to really think about the domain of employee-organization relationships, and then what happens to people. Steve, I'm not sure about you, but you probably met a lot of people who say to themselves or have said to you, I really love where I work. You also have had people describe hurt and
Yes.
pain and heartache, and they haven't been able to reconcile why they feel this way, and sometimes they beat themselves over it. And for me, it helped me realize that there is a parallel there, because I had a scenario where I had my heart broken, but I didn't know what it was at the time. And I had a mentor that I explained this emotion that was going on in me, because I had a situation where I thought that something was going to be not just like given to me, but I'd be recognized for something. And I actually wasn't. And I put a lot of work, a long time and work into it. And I just couldn't reconcile what that feeling was. And I went to my mentor and said, I feel pain, I feel hurt. And I was being vulnerable with them because you don't tell your business mentor about emotions, right? And he said, I know what happened. You had your heart broken, and it's happened to me. And that was it. A light bulb went off in me that said, that's the feeling that I had. It's the feeling that I had in elementary school or middle school, the feeling I had in high school, a little bit in college. But that was the feeling that it was heartbreak. And then 5+ years later, coming to Penn, I started to put the pieces together as to how I could actually translate this using science, using the organizational sciences and the human sciences, and how I could translate this so that people could understand what they were experiencing. But also, I could give them some recommendations as to how that they could move themselves past that, overcome it, and still be productive in the organization.
It sounds like a great way to engage in coaching work.
Yes, absolutely. It is interesting when, I'm coaching people, and of course, having the foundation built here at Penn, and I took almost a semester and a half of coaching, semester and a half, almost a full year of coaching, cross-cultural coaching, executive coaching, and that really helps me understand the human behind having a conversation around what they're experiencing. Steve, when you and I were walking in here, you mentioned about some of the work that you're doing, and one of your passions around helping not just HR, but organizations recognize that, they're human beings in it. And that I remember there's a professor, Goran Karlstadt, who was friends of the program. He's a friend of the program, and he mentions he thinks HR needs to change from human resources to human relations or human relationships. And for me, it really was helping employees and organizations understand similar but different things. One is that helping organizations recognize, large, complex organizations recognize that they have employees working in them, but also helping employees recognize that they have a job or that they work in large organizations. And if I can help both of them understand that together, then I think the relationships will continue to improve and grow.
Yeah, I think you've come across something I think that is a useful tool in the work that you and I do, because this idea of how to conceptualize a workplace experience for somebody, and using the metaphor of the relationship is a very powerful way, because it's something everybody can understand clearly.
Steve, you hit it right on the head. Think about this. When you are starting any type of role or looking at a job, it really is a relationship. you see someone that you think you might like, and you find out how you can approach them, or someone sees you and they find out how you can approach how they can approach you. And that's the courting part of the relationship. The interview process is all about courting. And then finally, if all goes well, someone actually proposes, right? And that company says, "I like us to be in a relationship. Do you want to be in one?" And they make you an offer, and you accept.
Yep.
And next thing you know, the relationship starts. And usually things go very well. Sometimes there's things along the way that happen that maybe you thought that there was something promised to you in the form of a psychological contract that somehow was broken, and that starts to damage the relationship. And if you're not aware of that as an employee and understand where you are thinking and where they're thinking and make things clear and expectations clear, then you're going to find yourself caught up in that. So I explore all of that in my thesis, as well as I've done an internal TEDx J&J talk on it that helped to explore that and really make it plain for people about what they're experiencing.
And maybe the aspect of once you're in the company and you become in a position of authority and you're developing others, it's like having kids.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that I do touch on is that the supervisor and leaders in the organization, they hold that relationship in their hand. You know, we've employed oftentimes the relationship you have with your boss is often a proxy, right?
Yeah.
For the relationship with the company. And how that goes is sometimes how you feel about the organization. So it's important that supervisors understand that and leaders understand that, you know, they really hold that. And it's helped me because as I was writing this capstone, I had a team and I was coaching an employee. And I remember one situation where I had to hold an employee accountable for something that they weren't doing. And I was thinking, okay, you're writing this capstone. And I stopped and thought, I need to think about how this employee is in relationship with the company and how what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say could impact that. And it helped me become more empathetic, no less clear about what was expected, but helped me truly understand that on the other side of this was not just the employee, was a name, was a person, was an individual who had a family, an individual that had a history with the company and had an expectation. And how was I going to hold true to what we believe at Johnson & Johnson as in our credo, but also how I was going to translate that human to human so that that person could make a decision that was based on mutual respect.
Great. Well, I love the work you've been doing there, and it's wonderful. And one of the things I truly appreciate about you is your willingness to come and share your insights and help inspire students who are thinking about taking our program here. So when you do have a chance to talk to some of our future students here, what kind of advice you're giving them and telling them, what kind of experience are you relating to them about being on this program?
Absolutely. One of the things that I do say and is that to students and prospective students is don't settle for a Penn degree. Now let me explain that.
Yeah, I was going to say, explain that a bit.
Explain that.
A lot of us just settle for a Penn degree. It's a pretty nice thing to have, right?
Don't settle for a Penn degree. And what I mean by that is that you can come into the Organizational Dynamics program, take your required classes, finish, write your capstone, and be done. But I really encourage students and prospective students. What I mean by don't settling for a Penn degree is that they really need to focus on a Penn experience. I tell students, prospective students, is that you can go to this program, you can attend, you can take your required classes, you can write your capstone, and you can walk across the straight stage with a piece of paper. But immersing yourself in the Penn experience, getting to know the professors, getting to talk to them about their actual practical application outside the program, interacting with students, really immersing yourself in this experience will make it that much more valuable but powerful. It amazes me the amount of time that you dedicate to this program and study. And as you know, it's not an easy program. It's a rigorous program. And individuals just leave here with a degree and they're satisfied with it. I really encourage students to really dig in. But I also let students know, and prospective students especially, is that there's a top-rate faculty here that actually not only understand the science, the background, the theory, but they apply this outside of the workplace. They help organizations make a difference. And if you can have a experience that marries the two, The professors here are models of that, and the support that the program gets, I think, is unparalleled. So when I share with students and students about the program, I tell them that you have to really focus on what is the outcome that you want. You have to be intentional. So when I put together my classes, and I projected it, I looked at what was the story that I wanted to tell about myself leaving this program that's different than when I enter it. So I often give counsel that what's the story that you want to be said about you? How are you going to shape that story based on what you take, based on what you do, and how you interact with others, and what you actually create or actually develop. So it's really important that I really share that experience with students. And what's great is that the program does send students my way for me to talk to them and to mentor and have dialogue. And I'm always open for that because I think it's really important that we allow and create the space for students to maximize their experience here at Penn. So that's what I mean by don't settle for a Penn degree, because Penn offers so much more than that piece of paper.
Yeah. Well, I get it, and I truly appreciate the work that you've done there to inspire our students to come. So it seems like you are in a personally wonderful place right now with your work and your career. So what's next for you?
Yeah, so it's funny. I am always thinking about how can I use my creative strengths and innovation to make a difference with organizations and people. And one of the things that I'm engaging in now, Steve, is, and I've been threatening to do this, and people have been encouraging me to do this, is to really write a book about the employee organization relationships and falling in love with your company. And I've been threatening this for a long time, right? And that is really what my current focus is really writing the book, The Love Letter. And that's actually how I begin my capstone, is with a love letter. And the goal of the love letter really is to show through a love letter, which is an employee writing to an organization as if they were in relationship, about the parallels between the two, and to use that story to help bring to light the challenges, the happiness, and the heartbreaks that employees experience. And my goal is that not only will it help employees continue to grow in the organization, but it'll also help organizations look at employees a little differently and how they do change and change management and change leadership, so that both can be strengthened. So I am engaging in that now. I'm open for new organizational stories. I would love to engage with students and prospective students or others who want to share with me their love story and how their experiences can contribute to this book that I'm doing, because I really believe that people need it, employees need it, but also organizations need it. And I just want to be able to reach out to people in a different way.
Well, wonderful. So Thunder, thank you for stopping by our studio today and sharing your great story with our listeners. And if anyone has a story to share with you, obviously we'd like them to reach out to you and for either advice about the program or share their story of their love letter with you. So how might people contact you?
Absolutely. I am always available on LinkedIn. Shoot me a message, connect with me. I look at all my messages. I engage. I post on LinkedIn probably once a week, once every other week, depending if I'm in the country. And then also at Twitter and Instagram, I'm at Cecil W. Explores.
All right. Well, Cecil, thank you for being here today. It's been a great pleasure to chat with you. Thanks.
Thank you, Steve.